These days, I really love helping kids just feel empowered and confident in whatever makes them feel like their best self. And so art is such a good way to do that. And so I work with kids, but I also work with adults because it makes me sad that so many adults, like, we just don't make time, unless you're like, I'm an artist, to do creative things. And I saw like a statistic recently that said, like, I think 25% of people would call themselves creative, but then like even less than that actually make time to do creative things. And I'm like, remember when we were kids and everyone was just like drawing and no one cared? And so I like to bring that out in adults too, by creating these art classes, like you were saying, that aren't about like, okay, can you make the most perfect picture of this tree? It's like, no, can you just paint the colors that feel good? So that's what I really love to do.
Hi, I'm Dr. Alisha Wilkins, the owner of Hera Temecula, and during the month of March, we like to feature local women artists, and I'm super excited to have with me one of our very own Hera Hub members whose art is featured throughout our space, Pina Nast.
Hi.
Welcome. I'm so excited to have an opportunity to sit down with you and talk to you a little bit about your art.
Me too.
So, and thank you once again for just your willingness and at such a quick notice too, right? We called her like 1 week before and was like, hey, let's put your stuff up.
Do you have art? I sure do.
Yes, exactly. So thank you for being willing. And it was really exciting for me because there were a number of pieces that I've never seen before. So thank you for that. So what I wanted to talk about is like your journey. Like, how did you start? Like what brought you to doing this?
Well, for me, I started painting in my early 20s. I'm 36 now, so it's been like, I don't know, 12 years or so.
Okay.
But it was an outlet for my own mental health.
Okay.
I was really struggling with anxiety and depression, and at the time I actually didn't realize like how deep in it I was. But I was just searching for any way to understand like my emotions and myself, and so I started painting. And I was really drawn to just like abstract expressionistic approaches because it didn't have to be anything. And I'm the kind of person, which I feel like a lot of people can relate, they get stuck in their head, they overanalyze, they get stuck in this anxiety spiral. And so I found that by painting I was able to just let it all go on canvas, and it didn't have to mean anything or be anything. It was just like a pure expression of how I felt. Yeah.
And I can get that. And I'm like that in that sometimes when I'm getting ready to start an art project or like I've gone to some sort of a creative studio, I always get very stuck in my head, because we've been taught, right, since elementary school, draw in the lines, you know what I mean? And so especially if there's no structure, and then you're like just sitting there for like 30 minutes going, which particular color should I choose? Which particular paintbrush should I choose? So I love that. And I think that people hearing that will actually find it very freeing. It's like, no, just go for it and see what happens. It's not like you're getting graded on this or anything, right? Just let it flow and let it happen. So speaking of the different, types of art form you like, what do you prefer? Like, what medium do you prefer when you are actually working?
I really love using acrylic paint and then alcohol inks. And a lot of people are unfamiliar with alcohol inks. I am obsessed with them. When I discovered them, I don't know, like 7 years ago, I just thought, talk about like flowy. They just start to move on the paper. And the reason I love them so much is because they're hard to control. And so it actually forces you to be more let it go, let it flow mentality, which is usually my mantra when I work with them. And so, when I work with them myself, I just get in that flow state and I just start picking one color and then another. And so I'm an intuitive artist, meaning that I paint from a place of intuition. Like I said, I like to get out of my head because that would just cause me more anxiety. So if I pick one color or one brush stroke, it leads me to the next one. So instead of planning out like, okay, I'm going to make it look exactly like this, and then it not working out, instead of getting disappointed, I'm like, whoa, look what I just made from just my pure intuition. So yeah, I love inks, and I love acrylic the best.
Okay. And so, which reminds me of the fact that you actually took us, the Hera community, through a project where we were able to make tree ornaments this past December, and we were using the inks, right? The alcohol, is it alcohol inks? What's the proper term for it? Okay, and I think the best thing about that was, we were essentially, non-artists, right? Not artists, but it definitely did force us to just like, just let it go and see what happens. And there were some really, really nice pieces that came out of it. I mean, I was impressed with my own. I was like, wait a minute, I did this? So that was a lot of fun. And seeing all the colors just, running together and just kind of creating this masterpiece without you even trying and putting this effort, you know what I mean? Pushing against something, just letting it happen. So that was a lot of fun. So speaking of walking us through a art project, you also teach.
Yes. So my background is in education. I have a master's degree in teaching, and particularly I've worked with kids with special needs. And so my specialty is being able to pretty much meet any person where they're at and really quickly be able to be like, okay, these are your strengths, these are some challenges you're having, and how can we make you feel confident in whatever it is you're learning. So I do have a background in teaching all academic areas, but these days I really love helping kids just feel empowered and confident in whatever makes them feel like their best self. And so art is such a good way to do that. And so I work with kids, but I also work with adults, because it makes me sad that so many adults, we just don't make time, unless you're like, I'm an artist, to do creative things. And I saw a statistic recently that said I think 25% of people would call themselves creative, but then even less than that actually make time to do creative things. And I'm like, remember when we were kids and everyone was just drawing and no one cared? And so I like to bring that out in adults too, by creating these art classes, like you were saying, that aren't about okay, can you make the most perfect picture of this tree? It's no, can you just paint the colors that feel good? So that's what I really love to do.
That's awesome. Okay. And so I happen to know that you also have published a book. Can you tell us a little bit about your book?
Yes. So my book is called Sunny Finds Her Shine, and it's about a sunflower that learns how to be really proud of who she is. And so the premise of the book is a lot of different flowers are telling her, you're too big, you're too this. And so she learns to feel really just confident in who she is. And so I incorporated things that have worked for me and my students. So things like yoga, there's yoga poses in the book, there's positive affirmations. And so Sunny's affirmation is, I am strong, I belong, and I'm full of power, because those are the messages I want young kids and adults to remember.
And it just kind of full circle to what you were saying earlier about, the fact that you found this mode of expression largely based on some challenges that you were having. It really just speaks to how important the arts are to our mental health. And quite frankly, when we consider the number of issues, especially post-COVID, that adults and children alike are experieing, and the fact that they've taken so much of the arts out of our school, it almost feels like we're at a time where it's like, no, this is, if there's any point in time in history where we should be reincorporating the arts into our school, it's probably right now, especially because of the mental load that we are all experiencing, and it's probably even more so now for kids, because it's not just the kids that are experiencing the stress, they're experiencing the stress that their parents are experiencing. experiencing
Totally.
as well, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I love this, and I'm so excited to have your work in our space. So do you have a favorite baby, your favorite piece of art that you just, really, really love, or
It's like so hard to pick.
Mhm.
So I guess my favorite, I might need a second to think about it. Well, I really love the one that's hanging in the other room over the couch.
Yes.
Because that one is a really good example of a painting that was fully formed intuitively, like I was talking about.
Wow.
Because it was just one of those paintings that I started with a bunch of colors,
Mhm.
and then, I was like, oh, that kind of looks like a flower. I wasn't even
Mhm.
trying to make flowers.
Wow.
And then one by one, I just started incorporating flowers and, letting one color guide me to the next color until this huge painting is just all these different flowers, and it's called Flower Jungle. And yeah, I love that one just because it's just like an example of like, okay, I'm gonna let it happen, and then you end up with something really beautiful.
Which is interesting, because I would have thought out of all the paintings that are currently in our location right now, our Hera Temecula location, that would have been the one that you actually did plan out.
But no.
So it's interesting.
So it doesn't always have to be abstract, because those ones, like, it is actually flowers, and I still was not planned.
That's interesting. I love all of your work. And as you said, it's really, really hard to pick one particular one, because I really like the one that's over our cabinet that has like the purple in it, but at the same time I also like really bold colors too. So the one that you mentioned that's over our couch is gorgeous. Did you call it jungle?
Flower Jungle.
Flower Jungle. Yeah. So those are like super, super vibrant colors. So yes. Well, thank you so much for once again for for being willing to have your work in our space. It is absolutely beautiful, and really just perfect for our spa inspired environment. And we will make sure that we put your information, your website, in so that other people can actually go to your website and connect with you. Come to your class. Are you listing your classes there? Okay, perfect.
I sure am. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So her art classes are going to be listed there, and if you have an opportunity, you should definitely stop by Hera Temecula and check out her work in person. It is for sale, and thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah,
Awesome. Thank you.